When you arrive at the theater, immediately complete your theater check-in. This lets our team know that you're there and will not be calling you to find out when you might be arriving, when you might be doing your check. If it's getting close to the end of the third day and you haven't done your theater check-in yet, we'll most likely be calling to find out when you're going to be doing your check. So doing your theater check-in right when you arrive just lets us know you're there. Now let's launch the assignment on the left-hand side, and we're going to start it. And you're going to see here that this is a workflow that has green and gray boxes. You always want to be in the green box. The gray box is I try tapping it and nothing happens. So we purposely designed this app so that we tell you where you should be going, and we guide you with those green boxes. Now, the first thing to do is theater check-in. I'm going to launch theater check-in. It's confirming my theater, my address. I'm going to hit confirm, and this tells us you've arrived. Gives us your GPS coordinates so we can confirm that you're at the theater, you're not at the wrong theater, and then you're good to go. If the button is unresponsive, that usually means that you're going into an inactive area. If you're trying to do theater check-in before the assignment window begins, then you won't be able to check in. You can only check in at the start of your assignment and the start of that 3-day period. The next thing you want to do is find a member of the theater staff and tell them that you're there for Movie Measure and you're there to audit the on-screen ads, and they should know who you are. They should know what you're there for. There are a lot of people that audit ads and trailers, and they've been doing it for many, many years. They should not give you a hard time. But in case they ask for a letter of authorization, you hit the paperclip button, and here you can see there's a letter that you can zoom in and out of, and you can show this to them. This basically is the letter from the client that says you're here to audit the ads, and they should let you write in. You shouldn't have to buy a ticket. You should not have to make any payments. And if they do give you a hard time, all you have to do is call the Movie Measure team, and we'll take care of it for you. So once you reach a member of staff, you show them the theater authorization letter. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the schedule you've set for yourself ahead of time is still valid. That the show times that you planned are still real show times, that they haven't changed, and that you can still audit those times. You want to do that before you create your task. That way you can just plan and make sure that your plan is still intact. So one thing to keep in mind is that show times do tend to change. They can change on the day of. They can change the day before. So that's why you definitely want to confirm those show times. You're going to be there on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so those show times are pretty stable. They do tend to change more frequently on a Friday or a weekend. But nevertheless, you should always just confirm that the show times that you want to take are still available. Once you've done that, you'll want to launch the Create Task function. By hitting Create Task, this brings in all of the current show times for that film, which is why you have to do this when you're in the theater and after you've checked in, because we have a connection with the theater. We bring in all of the show times, and we present them to you here. Now, on the Create a Task screen, you'll see a couple of information pieces here. You'll see the name of the movie, a start time, and a show time. The start time is the actual start time of the late pre-show, which is the key time that you want to be sitting in your seat in the auditorium. Now, we've added up the late pre-show run times, and we've summarized it, and then we've added maybe 3 to 5 minutes on top of that to give you a little bit of a buffer room. But regardless, the latest time you want to be in the auditorium is that first start time. So you want to make sure that you have enough time to create your task, see the manager, and get to the auditorium by 7:50 if that's your first check that you're doing. Now, to add a show time, to create a task, you press the plus button. And now it's just asking, do you want to create a task for Maze Runner? I'm confirming that. And as you can see here, it added the Maze Runner at 7:50 p.m. That's the late pre-show start time to my task list. Now it's asking for a manager's signature. Now you can do manager's signature at any point in the check. You don't have to do it now, but if the manager is available and can see you, it's best to get it done and out of the way. But if not, and you're running late, you're not going to make it, it's a little close to the 7:50 p.m. time, you'll want to just hit complete later. It turns it red, but you cannot complete the assignment until you've got the manager's signature. Now, when you're ready, you go to the auditorium and you launch your first task. What we do here is we ask you just to reconfirm that you can still do it. If you had any delays in reaching the auditorium, someone stopped you, something happened, and you're not going to make it to the 7:50 time, you can just say no, and it brings you back to the create a task screen with new show times. Or you can confirm it that, yes, I can, and now it knows that you can still do it. Now you're looking at the workflow for every single ad check for every auditorium. This is the same workflow you'll see all the time for the ad checks. Now it looks like it's a lot. It's not. You'll get through this very quickly, and you'll see in this demo that there's not too much to do here. So at this point, you'll be outside the auditorium, and you'll do your connection check. We check your connection again just to make sure you have a good connection. And if you don't have a good connection, we'll tell you that you'll be in manual mode, which I'll explain later on. But here, it's just nothing to do except just, confirm what you're seeing, whether you're a good connection or poor connection. Next thing is auditorium check-in. You're going to tell us which auditorium number you're in. This has to be exact. You have to tell us exactly which number you're in. Also tell us the seat capacity of the auditorium. This is always a sign that's posted outside the auditorium. It's required by the fire department, and it'll always be there. It's either right outside before you walk in or right past the front doors. So I'm going to put a number in here of 200. And then we ask you about the format and whether it's 2D or 3D. It's important that this information is accurate as well. I'm going to say, yes, it's an IMAX auditorium, and it's in 2D. And I'm going to hit done. Now, once you've done those pieces, it didn't take long. It just took a minute or so. So that's why you want to leave a little bit of a buffer before that start time. And now you're going to do the ad checks, which is the most important part of your entire assignment. At this point, you want to walk into the auditorium. You want to find a place to sit discreetly. If the showtime is sold out, you should stand in the back of the auditorium near the exit. Don't take any patron seats that have actually purchased a ticket. You can stand in the back, and the sound will be just as loud, and you won't have any issues. So I'm going to start the ad checks. All right, now you can see a start listening button. This button is the way you're going to perform your ad audits. You hit the button with your index finger, and it says listening. It's listening to the sound that's playing, and it's taking that sound, and it's sending it off to our databases, and it's going to return a match of what you're watching based on the sound. So it's very important that you give us permission for your microphone. If you do not enable the microphone permission, then you will not be able to complete the ad check, and you will not receive payment if you don't enable the microphone. So this is very, very important that you do this when you download the app and install it the first time, that you do grant us that permission. Now, we'll try to give you a prompt on this screen that will help you figure out when the late pre-show starts. So we don't have it in this demo, but we will have it in a week or two. On this screen, you're going to see a thumbnail above, and it will say, Hyundai Corporate D-Gate, because that's the first ad in the late pre-show. We're going to show you the thumbnail. So it just gives you a little more of a cue on when to start your late pre-show. The second thing you'll want to do is when you walk into the auditorium, you'll see ads playing on screen. You want to immediately know where you are in that pre-show. Are you still in the early pre-show? Has a late pre-show started? You won't know this unless you have the playlists in front of you and you're looking at them. So if you're auditing a PG-13 movie, you want to open up your PG-13 playlist. And you want to look at it and you want to see what's playing on screen and determine where you are in the list and when the late pre-show is going to start. Now again, you'll want to look out for that front and center piece, that spot I'll show you now. That is your marker that tells you the late pre-show has started. But first thing you want to do is find out where you are. Now, if for some reason you can't determine where you are in the playlist and it's not making sense to you, there is a chance that the theater is playing a different ratings playlist. What does that mean? That means that the auditorium is playing a PG playlist instead of a PG-13 playlist. Or maybe they're playing an R playlist instead of a PG playlist. So if you can't find where you are and this isn't making sense in a sequence, you'll want to look at the other ratings and see if you can figure out which rating programming playlist they're actually playing on screen. If you can match to one of those other ratings, you'll want to use that as your marker to start the checks. So regardless of what playlist they're playing, you want to find the marker of when the late pre-show begins and start your checks. Now, if you're late for some reason and you are realizing that you're already into the late pre-show, this would be a problem. You'd want to leave the auditorium and immediately call the movie measure team. You wouldn't be able to complete the check. You'd have to go to a different time. And it's going to make it a little tricky for you, especially if it's your first couple times, on how to navigate the app and how to get those 3 tasks in. So you really want to do yourself a favor and make sure you're not late for the late pre-show. You want to just budget a couple of extra minutes in there so that you're there on time. Now, when you're ready and the late pre-show is started and you're good service, you want to start the listening button. It's going to listen to the sound and it's going to present you back with a match. And it might ask you to choose an ad version. If there's an ad that has the same sound and there's a little bit of small nuances, maybe there's a different actor or a different text on screen, maybe a different image, then we'll present you with a version. You have to do your best to determine which version that is. You want to read the prompts, and you'll select the version that makes the most sense. Now, let's do a couple automatic tests, and you can see how the auto matching works. And I'll start off with showing you the screen vision front and center spot. That is your marker and is the critical indicator to when the late pre-show starts. Now let's play this.
You're watching Front and Center. Keep watching. We got more exclusive content and entertainment coming your way.
Okay. So as you can see, that said front and center, screen vision, it was blue. You can really look out for that when the ads are playing on screen. So I'm going to play the first ad, and I'm going to do the auto match. When I'm ready, I hit the start listening button with my index finger, and I make sure my microphone is not covered. I'm going to start listening.
Honey. Have you seen the fence? Because it's missing again.
Really? That is so weird.
Yeah, what do you think it could be?
So you can see here that it just took a few seconds. We received a match, and you can see pretty clearly here that it's an NFL football related ad. It's about tailgating. The ad name says D-Gate. So it's pretty clear that this is the right match. So you want to just select this ad. And then if you ever have any comments that you want to add in, anything that's wrong with the ad, maybe the sound is wrong, there's something on screen that doesn't look right, there's no visual, you'd want to just enter those comments in and let us know. You don't need to give us any feedback, like whether you liked it or not, or whether the audience liked it. That's not necessary. Just tell us, make sure if there was any problems, you just report that here. Now we're going to do one more match here, and I'm going to play this ad.
They came out of nowhere, sir.
How many of them?
We don't know. Dozens.
All right, let's teach these freaks some manners.
Good luck out there, Captain.
Thanks, but I don't need luck. I have
So this was a very fast match as well. You can see just by the thumbnail alone that what you're seeing on screen and what was tagged in the app, that the images match. It's Geico, and then it's Captain Count on Savings. It's pretty clear what it is. Now, if for some reason you feel like it's the wrong ad, it's the wrong match, what you're seeing in the app does not make sense to what you're seeing on screen, this would happen very, very, very rarely. Maybe 99.999% of the time, we're going to give you the right match. But in the event that you feel like it's wrong, you would select wrong ad. And what we do is we give you a list of what we think is supposed to play in front of that rating, that playlist. And we're just going to present to you this playlist, the late pre-show. We're going to present you these ads in the app, just like what you have in your playlist. And you can select from those ads and choose a different option. Now, we're just going to pretend like this was a wrong match, even though it wasn't, just so I can show you. I'm going to hit wrong ad. And I can see the list here. Now, if I don't see what I'm looking for on here, Then I would hit I still don't see the ad now. And it asks for a description of what you're watching. Now, when you put these descriptions in, it's very, very important that you tell us two things. The name of the company whose ad it is, and a description of the scene. So now I know this is Geico. As I watch the full ad, I can tell it's Geico. Type in Geico. Oh, Geico. And it's like an outer space Star Wars scene. So I've entered in the name of the brand, and I gave a description of what I'm watching. This will help us figure out what you saw on screen. The more description you can give, the more it's going to help us figure out what that was, and less work for all of us in trying to determine what you watched. If you're not giving us a good description, we're going to call you, and we're really going to have to find out what you saw, and there might be a chance we might have to check it again if we can't determine what that was. So now I'm quickly going to show you manual mode. And again, if you don't have good service, we're going to send you straight into manual mode where you're just selecting from a list rather than using the sound matching. But if you feel like the service is unstable and you've hit the listening button and you're not getting a result, so I'll show you what that is here. So here, we couldn't find a match. We send you right to that manual list. So you can choose from this list here. So let's say I'm watching TurboTax. That's it. I'm done. And now we bring you back to the sound matching screen. But if you want to stay in auto mode, if you want to stay in manual mode, all you have to do is switch to manual mode here at the bottom. And you can see here what we've tagged so far. We've tagged Hyundai. We've entered manually the Geico ad. And then we've also selected TurboTax from the list. Now let's say I want to stay in manual mode. There's some more ads on screen. I'm going to select another ad here, and I'm going to continue down the list. And I'm going to add it in. And I've got another one, let's say. I don't see it here in the list. And I say I still don't see that ad, add it now. And I'm going to give that description, and I'm going to write test. And now it's added another manual entry called test. Now, when the ads are done, you'll know because the trailers will start and it will be around the showtime of the film. So if the showtime of the film is at 8 p.m., 8 p.m. is when the ads stop and the trailers begin. But definitely wait for sure until the trailers start before you finish the ads, because there are ads sometimes as it approaches the movie that look like trailers. Sometimes they'll do, let's say M&M's will do something with one of the films and it'll be branded like a trailer. Or there was a Geico ad that was like a horror movie and it looked like a trailer, but it wasn't. It was an ad. So be very careful that before you close out of the ad checks, that all the ads have actually finished. Now you'll have another marker to know when the ads have finished. And that's going to be the Chevy slide that you see on screen. Now a slide is different. A slide is an image on screen that has music behind it. It's not a video. It's not an ad. It's more of a static image. Now all of your ad checks will close with this Chevy slide that you'll see. You'll see the Chevy logo, and then you'll hear music behind it. The sound matching is never going to work for the Chevy ad, but we do need to always capture it. And that's always going to be your indicator that the late pre-show has ended. So you've got two indicators here that help you figure out where the late pre-show begins. You have your front and center branding asset, which we showed you in the beginning, and then your Chevy closing slide, which is your Chevy image with your music behind it. So in order to get the Chevy ad into the app, you want to add it in manually, so you will not be able to sound match it. Now I'm going to look for it in my list. Now it should be here in this list. I don't see it here. But if you don't see it, you hit I still don't see the ad, add it now. And I'm going to write Chevy, just like that. And now I know Chevy was the last ad. And when we look at your results, we can clearly see the ad checks have finished. And Chevy was that last entry. And now you're done. So you're going to hit the done button. And we double check that you're done. Once you hit confirm, you cannot go backward and you cannot go back into the ad checks. If you feel like you made a mistake, hit back to ad checks. Now I'm just going to hit done and I'm going to confirm that it's over. Excuse me. And now I'm moving on to audience measurement. This is the last thing we need to do before we leave the auditorium. Audience measurement, you can see here, has a couple parts. It has audience age, gender, and attendance. Before you leave the auditorium, you want to take a look around, see what age groups are in here. Maybe there's some kids, some teenagers, and an older group, maybe 55 plus. Doesn't have to be exact, just a guess. Audience gender, you have percentages here. You just take the slider and slide it. Maybe it's 20% male, 80% female. And let's just say the attendance is very low. Let's say there's one person in there. Now, your options are 0 or 10%. They're in increments of 10. So if there's only one person, just enter 10%, that's fine. If there's nobody in there, don't count yourself, just put 0. Last part is sound and video checks. I'm just going to give some feedback on how the sound was. Maybe it was too loud. Maybe there was no audio. Maybe the video quality was fuzzy and not clear. And then anything else you want to tell us about your overall ad check, you want to enter it into additional comments. When you're done, you hit done. And off to the review screen, which is the final check before you're finished. You can edit anything you've entered previously. If you felt like you couldn't find the seat capacity and you just put a number in and you'll do it later, you can edit it here. Don't spend time looking for seat capacity and be late for don't be late for the pre-show. If you can't find the seat capacity, enter in a number and you can go back and edit it afterward. You can change your measurement and sound video checks. But most importantly, you can edit the checks somewhat for the ads. If you felt like you selected the wrong ad in manual mode, you could edit it and select a different ad. So this above here says you selected TurboTax, but actually you thought it was Sprint and you selected TurboTax by mistake. I can then swap it out and now I added Sprint. But here I have it twice, which clearly isn't right. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to select Netflix instead. Now I have a unique Netflix ad. You're never going to have the same ad play twice in the late pre-show. Now, you can't delete any ads from here. If you feel like you added something incorrectly, you'll have to let us know. You'll have to call us and tell us so we can delete it. But, it's a little bit of an extra step, so just be really careful about not to add something by mistake. Then, if you feel like you missed something and you didn't add an ad because you ran out of time, maybe the spot was 15 seconds long and you couldn't find it in time and then you were on to the next one, you can still add it here in the review screen. So you want to go to the bottom where it says missing ad, add another ad to the check, hit the plus button. And this brings you to a bigger list that has all the ads for all the ratings for that theater. And you can add it in here. So I'm going to select Viceland. And now I have another ad here on my list. But again, once you add it, you can't delete it. So be very careful if you're adding new ads in this list. When you feel comfortable, press review complete. And now we go to complete task. And all complete task does is send the data back to us so we can review it. Now you have to have service here. You have to have service if you if you don't have service in the auditorium, do a complete task in the lobby. And now that little spin is sending the data back to us. And now you're being brought to create a task screen. We did our first task. Now you're on to your second. And this is where you'd want to select your second task. And when you're done with your second task, you would repeat what we just did, and then you'd go on to your third task. Once your third task is complete, you would be able to complete the assignment. But if I press the back button here, you can see here we have only added one, so complete is not available here. Now, if you ever see this Add Showtime button on the bottom left-hand corner accessible, please don't use it. We're going to be deactivating it. It doesn't work, so just ignore that button for now, and we're going to be removing it in the next release of our app. So here you can see manager signature still red. I'm just going to go ahead and complete it. I'm going to write John. I'm going to use my index finger to sign John. You want the manager to do this, obviously. And hit done. And now you can see manager signature is checked. It's no longer red and it's not green. So you can see here the next step is if you get to this point, you're lost. What do? Follow the green box. That's create a task because you still have another task to do. All right, so let's just talk about a few reminders before we wrap up. You have 3 days to complete your theater assignment. Once you check in, you must audit 3 auditoriums in the same day. You should review the playlist in advance that we send to you so you can expect when the late pre-show begins. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to know when the late pre-show begins. It's going to make it very difficult for you to do your job. If you'd like to do a test assignment, I can set you up with the same assignment I just did here. I would recommend this. It's good to know how to navigate around the app, how to do the listening. We'll send out the same ads playlist that I just used. You can tag all the ads and kind of play around a bit. It's not required, but I think it'll really help you in getting prepared for your in-theater check and make it all very less stressful. And the last thing I would say is make sure you have the app downloaded and registered so that you can you're good to go for your test. And if you have any questions or concerns, you just reach out to the Movie Measure team and we'll be happy to help you and answer any questions that you have. Don't hesitate. And best of luck in your ad checks. Thank you for watching.